Welcome to Lesson 5. After this lesson, you will be halfway through my Healthy Cooking Time Saver series. Hopefully you're starting to feel a little more comfortable and confident in the kitchen, but if not, that's completely normal and you still have 5 lessons to go. Today's lesson is all about developing knife skills, which is essential for maintaining safety in the kitchen. Whenever you go to cut, you want to make sure you're working with a sharp knife because dull ones actually produce more accidents in the kitchen. If you can afford the upfront cost, you want to invest in a premium knife product such as brands like Wusthof or Cutco. Cutco even guarantees the life of the knife and they offer free sharpening. Regardless of which brand you choose, you want to make sure your knife has a little bit of weight to it, is comfortable to hold, and the blade runs through the tip of the handle. That way it won't come off in the middle of cutting. If you're going to buy a premium knife, you want to make sure you're taking good care of it. Make sure you're cutting on a soft surface such as a plastic cutting board. Never cut on ceramic or glass because it will destroy the tip of your knife. If you do use a wooden cutting board, make sure to occasionally treat it with some type of mineral oil or waxing to preserve its life, and don't ever stick it in the dishwasher because the heat will warp it. It's also important to protect your knives by storing them in a wooden block that sits on the counter or is placed in a drawer. It's important to continuously sharpen your knife at home to maintain its edge. I have 2 here that are popular ones on the market. To sharpen the knife with the stick, you want to put your knife at about a 15-degree angle and run your knife through the front and the back. So here it is in slow motion. And you're going to need to do this several times. And then once or twice a year, you want to professionally sharpen your knife with a stone. But this actually removes a piece of the blade, so you use the other 2 methods to maintain its shape throughout the rest of the year. Lastly, before we proceed to cutting techniques, I'm going to discuss a few knives you want to keep on hand. So the first one is going to be your basic chef's knife. And this you're going to end up using the most. This is for your chopping, your slicing, and your dicing. Your next knife that's very versatile is your paring knife. This blade is only 2 to 3 inches long, and you'll do a lot of scoring and de-seeding with this knife. It's made for more intricate knife work. In between your chef's knife and your paring knife is your utility knife. This knife is about 4 inches long, and it's good for anything in which a chef's knife is too big, but a paring knife is too small. So I like to use this when I go to cut mangoes or something with that in-between size. Another knife that's very useful to have on hand is a bread knife. And this one has a double D edge to it, which means that the grooves are not as fine as a serrated knife. I use this anytime I go to cut my breads or even tomatoes. If you love fresh seafood, consider buying a fish fillet knife. The blade is known for being very bendy and it can really get in between bones and the skin. Lastly, it's very useful to keep kitchen shears on hand. I use these for snipping off my fresh herbs, or sometimes I even use it to cut meat. So these are the foundations of maintaining knives, and now I'm going to show you how to actually use them. In all our cuts, we're going to be using the claw method. So take your hand and curl the tips of the fingers back, then tuck your thumb behind them. With the claw, you're going to be using your knuckles as a guide for the blade. So you're actually cutting against your skin, but with the tips of your fingers bent back, this ensures that you don't cut off any tips. When you're holding your knife, you want to hold it like this, making sure that your pointer finger does not pop up. Or if you want greater control, you can actually choke up on the blade and hold it just above the handle. The first item we're practicing with is a carrot. There are a couple different ways to handle a carrot, but one of the easiest ways is to cut off the tip and then cut lengthwise in between your fingers so it looks like this. Again, it looks like this. So now you have two halves, and if you want to, you can again cut these into fourths the same way, or you can leave them in half and even do semicircles. Another option, if you want smaller quarters, you can take the two quarters, put them side by side, and then use your hand and the claw and cut them both all the way through. And then you use your thumb to help push the food up. When you do any slicing, you do a rocking forward motion. So you put the tip of your knife towards the cutting board, slice down and out. Next, I'm covering an easy way to dice an onion. This is actually when your paring knife comes in use, or even your utility knife. I'm going to use the utility knife for this onion because it's so large. So I cut off the top of the onion and remove the peel. But when I remove the peel, I like to pull mine back and keep it on the actual bulb of the onion so that it makes a nice handle, just like this. Then if you want to make sure your onion won't roll on you, you can cut a flat surface. Now it's set. The best way to dice an onion is to score it first. So we're going to cut straight down the onion, but not all the way through, leaving the root intact. And now I'm going to turn it 90 degrees and cut it this way. Make sure to keep your fingers curled and out of the knife's range. Now I set it on a cutting board and cut straight down. And out of that, you get your dice. The last item I use to practice knife skills is garlic. And with this, I like to demonstrate a mince. So as I showed you before, an easy way to peel garlic is to put it on the cutting board and use the flat blade of your knife plus your weight to peel it off. So remove the peel, and then you can use your claw again to run your knife through it. So I like to run my knife through it once, and then by this point I like to take my left hand and put it on top of the knife blade for greater control and just a little bit of weight to it. And then I use my right hand and move the handle up and down. This way I can quickly run my knife through and get a very fine mince. So your garlic will start to pile up on your blade and you just want to scrape it off. Now I have a mince, and if I want to turn this into garlic paste, I simply bring my cutting board to the edge of my counter so that my handle of the knife can actually hang off the counter edge. And then I do a scraping motion with the blade of my knife back and forth on the cutting board. So my knife is tilted slightly. I'll scrape across the cutting board, and then once I reach the edge, I tilt my knife the other way and scrape back. So it ends up being the scraping rocking motion, but it's a very slight tilt, and you will start to see the oils actually come out of the garlic. Then I use my left hand to place pressure on the top of the blade, and that also helps extract the oils. So quick motion is like this. So as you can see, it's very shiny now, and the shininess are the oils that have been extracted from the garlic. If you do this long enough, this becomes the paste that you can buy in a tube in the grocery stores, but using fresh garlic is going to taste so much better, and you can do this in such a short amount of time that it's worth the effort. So now your hands stink like garlic. A good way to get rid of the smell is to run them against stainless steel under cold running water. My knife blade happens to be stainless steel, so I just rub my fingers against the side of the blade. Now I have a clean blade and garlic-free hands. This is the end of the knife skills lesson. Your homework today is to sharpen your knives and practice cutting, dicing, and mincing on carrot, onion, and garlic. Keep your knives sharp, remember the claw, and you will be very safe.